We have Dr. Elliott Dacher back with us today, who is a board-certified internist in internal medicine, who trained at Harvard for some of his education, practiced and trained also at the Institute for Noetic Sciences, and was in clinical practice for a number of years. He authored a book called Integral Health, The Path of Flourishing, and we're going to talk a bit about integral health and flourishing now, because really Dr. Dacher is an expert in this area. He's written a number of books that kind of connect to it. So you talk about human flourishing. What do you mean when you say that?
Well, in a simple sense, it means achieving an optimal well-being.
Optimal well-being.
The ancient Greeks had a word for it. Aristotle used the word eudaimonia, which meant the good life. And of course, they weren't talking about simply physical well-being. They were talking about the kind of luminosity and presence, aliveness, vitality, enjoyment, delight that can be there through all of the adversities of life, including aging, disease, and death.
Now that's a mouthful of something to try and achieve. I wonder if it's something that comes natural when we just go deeply into the moment.
To some extent. I think that's true. It is being deeply into the moment, but that's very difficult for us to do because we're adjusted to a very overactive mind, which keeps us living in our mind, in our daydreams, rather than in reality. And that's not so easy to accomplish. And a great teacher, Krishnamurti, said, it is not possible to measure health by being well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. And I think
that's true.
Yes, and
you just summed up a lot there.
And I think what he was trying to say was what he was saying. It was that in the sense that we were so accustomed to doing, to being, to living in an overactive mind that's worrying, that's planning, that's thinking about tomorrow, that's constantly moving. We're never out there in life itself. And in that kind of an experience, this constant worry and planning and thinking and fear, it's not possible to have the inequalities of human flourishing that we can speak
Quite
about.
in the reverse way, it's not possible to be in that space when you're in the moment. Because fortunately, human beings are not so smart. We can only be in one place at a time.
That's absolutely
correct.
correct.
If we focus on being present and we go deep into that moment, as much as we can, the example I like to give is of a 4-year-old kid who's looking at a flower and it's got a bee on it, and it's got lots of colors, and they're just grossly watching it and being present. And mother calls, "It's time for lunch, Freddie." And Freddie doesn't hear a thing. He's right there in that moment, present.
Right.
It seems like in childhood we have that. What happens after that?
Oh, well, we have a culture that educates our intellect.
Yes, indeed.
We have a culture that rewards cognitive processes and cognitive thinking. We have an educational system that measures achievement by how much we can think and how much we can accomplish in those ways, and we get rewarded in life by that. The only problem is we get suffering and not happiness. So that part we don't talk about so much. So the issue of why it's difficult to be present to oneself is simply that we have learned how to have a very overly active
So the culture undermines it.
Well, it undermines it, and of course the way an infant has it or a child has it is lovely, but
it's natural.
It's natural, but they can't protect it because they don't have the consciousness and wisdom to understand that. And I recall just watching my young granddaughter and that wonderful innocence, knowing how that's going to get lost, and the work involved in recapturing with the wisdom. T.S. Eliot said, "We will never cease exploring, and at the end of our exploration, we will have returned to the place from which we started, that naked, innocent presence in life, and know it for the first time."
That's beautiful.
But that knowing is so important, because if we know it, we can protect it, we can hold it, we can do rich things with it.
You're exactly right. I know that many people have written books on what life is about and its meaning, and one of the examples that's given is that when you're on your deathbed, or someone that you love is on their deathbed, what's going through your mind isn't your stock portfolio or your bank account. It's about, how do I make the relationship in my life that I've had with people that are important to me meaningful and loving. And that's an awakening that comes, unfortunately, way too late for most of us. Although sometimes we get that opportunity when there's a natural disaster and there's a tsunami or an earthquake or something like that. There's a natural instinct for us to bind together in community, to help and support, to love and be with, and to listen and care. And I think that's a lot of what you're talking about.
Yeah, and it's transient. And you and I see in our office all the time.
As doctors.
As doctors, a person comes in, they've had a serious medical condition. There's an opportunity, their ego quiets down, time becomes available all of a sudden, instructions will be listened to, there is an opening and a vulnerability that can be used as a teachable moment to enter into this learning process that takes us into a deeper quality of life. And what happens? We throw a diagnosis, we throw a therapy, not to say that they don't have their role,
yes.
but the moment we throw those and give it a name, we cover over and close off the great opportunity of disease. The great opportunity and challenge for disease is it breaks our life at a moment, and if you know how to enter it through a guide, a physician or other guide, you have the opportunity and that openness, that extraordinary vulnerability to begin to explore this nature of what life can really be like. This human flourishing, this optimal well-being, has specific qualities. It's not a pleasure is not a quality. An enduring delight and happiness that's inner-generated and immune to outside adversity, that could be calm through everything and lasts through life. That's a quality. A wisdom that's not a cognitive wisdom. I know how to do this, I know how to do that, but there's an inner knowing about life and being that is a guide and a compass for how we live. Freedom, economic and psychological freedom is one kind of freedom. But the really freedom from the known, from all of our conditioning, all of our past, all that we've learned that kind of structures the next moment, that's real freedom. And the same with love, the ability to love not because it satisfies our own needs by what somebody returns to us, but because the quality of just seeing and being concerned about the happiness of another. So all of these qualities that generate the beautiful life that we see in certain people who have mastered this, a Nelson Mandela, a Dalai Lama, maybe the guy down the street.
Sure.
Are the qualities that are there for each of us if we move beyond this well-adjusted state of normal that really is sickness or suffering from the perspective of one who has achieved what's possible in the human life.
You know, as doctors, a lot of the time we forget that there's a purpose for disease, and it really is a reflection of our psychospiritual discomfort. And it serves as a lesson because the body's a reflector of where we need to learn a lesson. And it's not so easy with the training we have, particularly, to be able to look at that because we're more interested in curing people's symptoms than we are looking for the deepest underlying roots of what went wrong and how we can modify that so that the person who has the illness is learning something important from it.
That's right. And we're all part of it. Physicians with their training, and individuals who come in to see physicians with their training.
Right.
Because they're trained to want cure and only cure.
They want the silver bullet. They don't
Right.
want to do the work.
So, and insurance companies that reimburse, and culture that supports it. So all of us are depriving ourselves of this great, extraordinary opening into optimal health and well-being, which is absolutely immune, resistant, and independent of disease, aging, and death. Now, everybody, you and I know, have seen a person go through death with great dignity.
Yes, indeed.
And it's hard to say they're not well.
And it's a beautiful thing because they may be healed, though quite ill physically.
That's correct. And so we know that optimal well-being, the ability to hold a deep sense of health inside, irrespective of what's going on outside, is possible for all of us. And I say, in the ancient Greek tradition, it's called eudaimonia. In the Chinese tradition, it's called the Tao. In the Hindu tradition, it's called Satchitananda, awareness, existence, bliss. There is a name for it in every tradition because this is part of the human experience, but we deny it when we are unaware of the capacity to flourish and grow and the methods and practices by which to get there.
It's what leads to great human suffering, too. Because when we are not engaged in that kind of thinking or that kind of behavior or that kind of presence, probably a better word, then we escape from what our true meaning and purpose of life is. So I really want to thank you, Elliott, for making this clear. And I want to remind people about your book, Integral Health, The Path of Flourishing. It's a great way to get some understanding. This is a little bit of a deeper level and more drawn out so you can get a better idea of what's happening. This is what we need to work on. And if we do, the world's going to be a better place, and we're going to be happier people.
Great. And just to remind you about my new book, Awake, Aware, Alive, which actually has a programmatic, traditional programmatic approach to how we can break through and open up these places of flourishing and prospering within us.
We'll gain a lot. Humanity will gain a lot, and we'll be happier people.
Thanks.